Tolo, I believe, Matt Thomas asked me this question to start the day, and I want to ask you guys this question. Because we brought up about Cleveland trying to trade back into the draft at 29.
We're talking trades?
Matt Thomas asks,
okay, yeah,
if Cleveland wants to do that and they take Hunter at 2 and Sanders is there at 12, would you be willing to give up 12 for Myles Garrett so they can go ahead and draft Hunter and Sanders?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been long on record with that one. There's not a player at 12 that's going to make more of an immediate impact than Myles Garrett is. And you have him and Micah Parsons. Now you're going to have to pay Myles Garrett. The Cowboys are going to have to be willing to do that. But to have 2 of the top 3 defensive players in all of football on your team, goodness gracious, that's incredible.
He doesn't miss games, does he?
No.
Myles Garrett.
No, he's been pretty darn healthy throughout his career, and he plays through injury.
Yeah, I'd love it. You know, I think we'll talk a little bit later on about how the Eagles are still really the only team in the NFL trying to win a Super Bowl really hard every year. I think it's easier than ever to win a Super Bowl if you are just willing to spend more future dollars to pay guys now. That's what they just did. They were like, actually, you can buy a Super Bowl. Watch us do it. And while every team is worried about, well, what's our cap going to look like in 3 to 5 years? They're essentially making a dynasty. Well, everybody's worrying about managing the cap. So, yes, if I was in charge right now, Brian, after 30 years, I would do that pick for Myles Garrett. I would go out and sign an offensive tackle. I would sign Devontae Adams. Then I would hope we had a hell of a draft. And whatever holes that I had in early October, I'm trading next year's picks to get holes fixed. And we could easily go win the Super Bowl next year. This is so doable. But you have to be willing to put your future year's financial security at risk. That's all you got to do. And I think after just bleeding this fan base emotionally and financially for 3 decades, it's time to get on that train.
It's funny because I think I would do it too. And I would, and like you said, well, Chuck, it's one of those things where I could, at 12, yeah, I've got players I like. This guy,
you know what you're getting in Myles Garrett.
Yeah, you absolutely know.
And he can help you play different positions along the front for you. You want to kick him inside at times, you can do that. Yeah. I mean, the ways that they could get after the quarterback and then line up with him and Micah, it's really exciting to think about.
920 asked, maybe I missed it, but why do you think Shedeur falls? I mean, that's kind of the buzz coming out of the combine is, right?
Yeah.
The chances of him slipping out of the top 5 from there could be a free fall.
Yeah, I think the reason that why there would be that maybe some people are turned off by the chances to interview him. Maybe they did not think that the things that they asked him to do, and I'm not saying it's a smarts thing or anything like that, but some guys have really good recall. Some are able to, when you put them on a board, they're able to show you like, okay, I totally get this. It's a simple scheme concept. Draw it for us. Walk us through. You have this check. Walk us through this check. And if you're able to, guys like Andrew Luck, and I know Andrew Luck is a different, but he's one of the rare ones where I remember watching Gruden put him on a board, and he was like, Gruden couldn't ask him a question that he wouldn't know the answer to. And you're sitting, okay, well, that's why guy's number 1 overall. Talent, smarts, as far as the scheme stuff.
But Myles Garrett plus Micah Parsons, you would make everybody on your defense so much better at their jobs. Absolutely. Because the entire offense has to worry about those guys.
Yeah.
Every job is significantly easier now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You don't have to load up in the secondary. So, yeah, I think that's a no-brainer if it's possible.
All right. I mentioned the double dip possibilities, and Wolchuk, I can use your help on this one too, as I always can. And this is again from Pro Football Focus, and they're kind of saying that not every first round pick will pan out, not every team will have the same hit rate as their top selections, but some teams will use multiple early selections to attack positions of need. Over the past 3 years, 18 of the 32 NFL teams have used 2 selections in the top 4 rounds on the same position. So how often do teams double dip at a position, and how successful has it been for them, and what positions could we see targeted in the 2025 draft? So they're looking purely at the first 4 rounds where our teams are using the most premium selections to double dip. It's not saying that teams won't find success with players in the final 3 rounds of the draft, but rather These are the selections they will feel the strongest about because they fall in the first half of the draft. Okay. Okay. There are 14 teams that have not double dipped in the past 3 drafts. Buffalo, Carolina, Cleveland, Dallas, Denver, Indianapolis, Vegas, Rams, Dolphins, Saints, Jets, Buccaneers, Titans, Commanders. Those 14 teams have not double dipped in the last 3 drafts.
Okay.
Okay. Teams that have double dipped over the past 3 drafts, and let me give you an example of that. There have been 6 times in these last 3 years. Well, excuse me, let me do this for you real quick. One team has double dipped every year in the last 3 drafts. Would you like to take a guess? They're an NFC team.
The Eagles?
No.
I knew the Eagles did last year.
Lions.
Close though, Dawson. It's the Packers. The Packers have double dipped the last 3 drafts.
Wow.
Is what they have. Okay, 6 times teams have double dipped in the last 2 of the last 3 years in the draft. Arizona, Baltimore, Detroit, Houston, Jacksonville, New England have all double dipped in the second half of the draft. Okay, that leads us to what positions. Now, okay, according to these guys at Pro Football Focus, 18 of their 150 players on their big board, which is their stack, are interior defenders, with 13 of them ranking in the top 100. There are also 18 offensive tackles, but some of them are likely to kick inside at the next level. While the wide receiver class isn't as strong as previous years, there's still 17 wide receivers in the top 150 on the board. Okay? So they're saying that double dipping isn't a foolproof strategy. The Vikings and the Cardinals have parted ways with guys that they double dipped on. But on the high end, you can catch maybe the Eagles and land 2 stars at the position. So, and also you could have teams like Green Bay and Cincinnati. They've drafted players later that have outperformed the early pick. So, Wolchuk, on your boards. All right, let's go. I'll go on your board first, and I'll go on my board second, if you could.
Mm-hmm.
As you look at your board, where is the positions you feel like that the Cowboys, from their needs, and there's a lot of them, can double dip from?
Running back, no question, especially if they wait on taking a back.
I agree there.
Edge.
I agree there.
And defensive tackle.
I agree there. Okay. I've added on my board, I feel like that the Cowboys could double dip at wide receiver.
Okay.
If they wanted to. I feel like they could double dip at corner if they wanted to.
Yeah.
And I feel like they could double dip at offensive tackle if they wanted to. Now, they probably won't with the offensive tackle, but I know on my board it would be that way. Okay?
Yeah, there's a lot in the second and third. I mean, maybe even the fourth a little bit here. Your William and Mary kid's interesting.
Yeah. That would be Charles Grant from William and Mary. Okay. If you were to double dip, give me some names. If you could, take your number 1 position, say you were double dip at running back.
Okay.
And give me a double dip that would be on your board using your first 4 rounds.
All right. So let's say we went for a running back in the second round. We got a Judkins.
Okay.
And then we went ahead and took a Sampson from Tennessee.
Okay.
Sampson's got some speed to him. They could complement each other nicely. Judkins, good all-around back, but lacks a little bit of juice.
Okay. So Judkins and Sampson are your 2 guys. And you would see Judkins as a second-round player.
Yes.
And then Sampson as a third.
I think they'd have to take him in the third since they don't have a fourth.
Right. I agree with you. I like Sampson better than Judkins.
You do? Okay.
On my board. and I have them both in the third round. So that would be the way you did it. I would be okay with that. What about at the edge position?
Edge, let's say, first round. Let's say they went Jalen Walker.
Okay.
At 12. Is that okay? Because I know you got him as a linebacker.
That's fine. That's fine.
But then what about in the third round, they circle back and they take like Ivy from Ole Miss?
Okay. I like what you did there. I personally have Ivy in the fourth, but I understand. So that would be a first and a third for you then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What about a defensive tackle?
D tackle, you could go. I mean, do you want to go with a
either direction,
like 2-3?
Because you're in a situation where you signed Osa, so maybe you don't want to go the 3 first. So try and go a 1 and a 3 then.
Let's see if maybe you could pair like Norman Lott from Tennessee and then Alfred Collins from Texas.
Okay, I see what you did there. You took a 3 technique in Norman Lott, hyphenated name from Tennessee. Good player.
Yeah, talk about a pass rusher.
And then Collins. So what you did for me then is you took a 3rd round guy and then a 4th round guy is what you did. But I don't disagree with what you're doing there. I wonder though the combination. I think those if you ask me the Cowboys, the potential double dip, I think Zach hit it with the running back, potentially with the edge, and potentially with the defensive tackle. But I'd also would you think about the corner there?
Yeah, I think it might have to be they go corner in round 1, unless maybe you get a Will Johnson slide.
Yeah.
Or do they check out Benjamin Morrison and like medically he's good to go? Could you get him at 44
right
in the second round and then circle back and take, the Cal kid's pretty good.
Williams.
I mean, do they like Amos from Ole Miss, who just had a really good time? Do they take him in the second round? They're probably not going to be able to wait on him in the third. But yeah, I mean, you probably have to go 2-3. I think you got to go second and third round back to back at corner if you really want to hit there.
If you really want to hit there. So to me, I would not, like I said, I would not be surprised if they do double dip in this. I think the draft is that deep in those positions that we talked about, and I think those would actually you'd probably get better value than that in saying instead of splitting up and saying. Oh, we'll take this. You could fix your defensive tackle spot in this draft with some of these kids that got right now.
I feel like, especially on a Fat Tuesday after all that double dip and talk, I could use a dilly bar. Maybe a dipped cone.
Yeah, dipped cone.
Maybe some ribs dipped in barbecue sauce.
There you go.
I'm working up an appetite over here. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.